Hi guys, it's ETS Pam Freer here, and this is crazy. I know. I'm trying to, I'm probably overwhelming you with all of these videos and such that I'm putting out there, but they're on days that typically I would be in the schools anyway, and so I want to make sure that you're getting the information that we would be doing while we're in school. So that's kind of what's happening right now. Today would be our college planning night at Hoxie, and that would be for our juniors, our rising seniors. So typically Ms. Pinkston puts that together, the Hoxie Planning Night, and she includes Ms. Vansell, myself, and the college admissions people from Williams Baptist University, Arkansas State University, Black River Tech College, and Crowley's Ridge College. So usually the way this would work would you be coming in and you would meet with those recruiters, you would hear a little pitch about their program, and you would pick up material from them. And then Ms. Pinkston would talk to you about things like honor grad, concurrent coursework, planning your schedule for senior year. And Ms. Vansell would talk to you about the ACT and different things. Well, we do know that ACT for April was canceled and moved and probably going to happen in June, but we're not for sure that even that will happen. So you're going to have to stay updated about that stuff, and I'll try to get that information out when I can. And I know Ms. Pinkston will be working with you on concurrent. As far as visiting with your college representatives, you may have to do that, set on some online meetings for that, and do some college campus tours this summer while you're out of school. And I know it's hard to get on campus, but you can do the e-virtual tours. And I put about 5 of those up last week and did a college road trip, so to speak, so that you could learn about different colleges. And you can do that going on to eCampus, and you can look for the college that you're interested in. So that's something that you guys could be doing. Also, community service, any type of volunteer work that you can do. I know right now it's also a little hard to get in to do that, but keep up with community service, because a lot of the colleges are going to a holistic approach with admissions, which means it's not weighted as heavily on your ACT and GPA, but also on the things that you're doing in the community. Then it would be my time to talk to you. So what I would talk to you about would be financial aid and how you can secure financial aid for college, because you're going to be the class of 2021. We're not overlooking the class of 2020, and my heart breaks for them that their senior year has been kind of hijacked. But I want to talk to you, and even the 2020 grads can kind of look at this and get a refresher course. So what I'm going to do with you is share my presentation, and hopefully it will work. So hopefully you can see that. And I'll be able to talk to you about some of the things about financial aid that I want you guys to know. So first, what is financial aid? Financial aid is basically the aid or the assistance that you get to help you pay for college. And it comes in a lot of different ways. And you need to be researching that right now, because in October is when you'll actually be able to apply for federal and state aid. And then institutional aid will come after that. But financial aid is basically aid that comes from, sometimes it comes from the United States government, but it's funding exclusively to students attending post-secondary education. So when I talk to you guys about college, are you going to college? That's post-secondary training. So a lot of the times I get kids saying to me, well, I'm not going to go to college, I'm going to go get trained to be a welder. Well, that's college. Any type of training after high school, if it's a 2-year degree, if it's a 1-year certificate, that is still college. And you may need funding for that. So you can see on this slide that funding comes from, there's federal aid, there's state aid, there's institutional aid, and what that means, that'll be the money that comes from the college that you're attending. Maybe you'll get that money based on your ACT score, or privately funded. You'll also perhaps be awarded federal WorkStudy, and that comes from your institution as well. The jobs, you'll be looking on campus for the jobs, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then also private aid. So check with your churches, check with your civic organizations around town, and see if they offer some type of financial aid available to you. So sources of financial aid, where I want to go next. So we're going to talk a little bit about these sources. These are the 4 that I like to talk about. There's a 5th one called tax credits, and you may be eligible for those, but I don't really know enough about that to really talk to you about tax credits. So I'm going to be focusing on these 4. And first, we're going to start with the grants, because that's the one that you're going to want the most of. Grants are considered free aid. They're gift aid. And so it's money that you can get to pay for your college expenses, and it doesn't cost you a dime. You don't have to pay it back. Some examples of that would be Pell Grants, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. That's probably the biggest bucket your financial aid is going to come from. So usually a student, if they qualify for the full Pell Grant, is close to $6,200 per year. So you divide that in half. You get half the first semester and half the second semester, and it goes to pay for your education. So let's say, for instance, that you're going to a two-year college like Black River Tech, or North Arkansas College, or UACCB, or Ozarka. Chances are your Pell Grant will pay for your total expenses at that college, and you may actually get a Pell refund, which is money you get back to pay for other things like living expenses, a computer, things like that. So that's how grants work. The important takeaway about Pell Grants is that they're based on needs. So you may qualify for a Pell refund. The maximum award in 1920, the 1920 academic year, was $6,195. We expect probably there will be an increase. And you may not get the full Pell. You may only get a partial Pell, but that money is available to students based on their financial need. So then we have scholarships, and everyone's always like, where can I get a scholarship? Throughout the year, I'll be posting links to different scholarships that you can look at. I usually post those on my ETS Facebook page. Your guidance counselors also post them on their their guidance page. So be looking whatever school you're going to. Of course, I'm talking directly to Hoxie tonight, but the high schools that you go to will be sharing that information with you as well. Like grant scholarships do not require repayment, so they are based on, they're also gift aid merit based, though they are based on what you do well. So you can say, for instance, get a scholarship based on your grades, or your ACT score, or your community service, or your band, FFA, different clubs and organizations. They can be based on a number of criteria, like athletic ability, religious affiliation, race, if you're left-handed or right-handed. Some of them will require you to write an essay, so don't be afraid of the essay. Keep calm and write that essay, because you can write words about yourself. I've often said that I have told a kid, scoot over, let's talk about you, because they become very humble when it's talking about themselves, and I can help you with that, pull out your bright spots. So can your English teacher and the teachers who know you best. Important takeaway, you have to know what your scholarship requires, what their requirements are, because you don't want to get a scholarship, work really hard for a scholarship, and then lose it because you haven't kept yourself eligible. So for instance, one of the big ones that students will qualify for in Arkansas is a lottery scholarship. So it's also called the Arkansas Academic Challenge Scholarship. We just tend to refer to it as the lottery scholarship because it's funded through the state lottery. In order to get the lottery scholarship, there used to be a lot of stipulations like income and GPA and all of that, but now it's just basically a 19 on the ACT, and you can qualify for it regardless of your income. But to stay eligible, so for my students who are already in college, you have to stay eligible or you will lose it, or you'll have to make up time. So it requires you on your first semester, your freshman semester in college, to take 12 credit hours, to be enrolled in 12 credit hours on the 11th day of classes. So 12 hours is typically 4 classes. And so you need to be enrolled in 12 that first semester, but every semester after that, you have to be enrolled in 15 credit hours. So that's basically 5 classes, and you have to maintain a 2.5. Well, question is, what happens if I drop a class and I drop below, or my GPA suffers? You can make up those deficiencies during the summer, but still yet, in order to get that money, you have got to be on the 11th day of classes, enrolled in 12 your first semester, 15 every semester after that. So I would encourage you, going into the college for the first time, go ahead and take 15 hours. That gives you a little wiggle room to drop a class if you need to, but go ahead and maintain that enrollment. Another thing with the Arkansas Academic Challenge, it becomes open for you guys to apply in October. And also the FAFSA becomes available in October, which is the free application for federal student aid. So you'll need to do that in October as well. It is a stipulation to get the challenge. You have to apply And also, if you're a male, you have to have complied with the selective service requirements for registration and certified to be drug-free. So a little bit about that. WorkStudy. Now, WorkStudy is a program that's been around for a long time. It's a federal program, and it provides students with federally funded jobs on campus or at other approved locations. So you have to look. This eligibility will come from your FAFSA. So when you do your FAFSA, it'll tell you how much you're eligible for, but it doesn't provide the jobs for you. So what you'll need to do is go to your college campus, wherever you're going to be going to school, and apply for jobs. One of the great things that has happened this year for my students in this area is the Williams Works program. So they are also going to be offering some places off campus as well as on campus. So you'll want to check with the colleges that you're going to attend. Sometimes these programs of study, these work study programs, can offer you a little bit of work experience in the field that you're going into. So that's something to keep in mind. But also, it's just an easy way to work and make money and not have to travel off campus to like go to work at Taco Bell or KFC or somewhere like that. You're able to work on campus. Sometimes it's a lot safer for you. So you might just want to think about the convenience there. You are responsible for securing your work study job. Just because it says that you're going to be eligible for it doesn't mean you're going to get that paycheck unless you go out and you secure that employment. All right, student loans. Student loans are something we're scared about. A lot of the times we don't want to tell our kids to rely on student loans. So if you're going to a two-year college, I would never suggest you get student loans, because even if there's a gap where you don't have to, where you don't have all of your financial aid covered, the gap is usually pretty small. So you could work over the summer to be able to cover that gap. So I would never recommend someone at a two-year college going to get student loans. Now, let's say that you're going to a four-year college, you're going to somewhere like Arkansas State University, and you take out student loans and you get more than you need. You don't have to take that extra money. You can just take what you need and move on and say, I decline the penalty on the rest of it. But if you do take the full amount, I caution you to be careful with that and to put that into a savings account so that you can use it later. Because your cost of attendance, usually your expenses will go up your last 2 years in school. Junior and senior, you're going to be a little bit higher, and you may not get the freshman grants and scholarships that you got the first couple of years. So you may need more student loans then. So I would encourage you to save that money and use it in the future if you need it. But loans, basically, the thing that you need to know is they come in two different types: subsidized and unsubsidized loans. You can get these loans through your FAFSA. When you fill out the FAFSA, you will put if you want a student loan, if you're interested in student loans or not. And the subsidized loans are based on your income. So when you fill out that FAFSA, it'll show if you're going to get subsidized loans. And what that means is that while you're in college, the United States Department of Education will pay for your interest that accrues during that time. If it's an unsubsidized loan, then you are responsible for repaying the interest during all those periods. So that is the difference between sub and unsub when you hear that term. Repayment occurs 6 months after you leave college. So some kids think, well, if I don't graduate, I don't have to pay them back. Well, that's wrong. It's 6 months after you leave, regardless if you leave because you dropped out or because you graduated. You have to start paying those student loans back. And I want you to be aware, when you go to take out student loans, the college is going to ask you to do entrance counseling. Just like when you leave college, they ask you to do exit counseling. And ask is a generous word there because it is a requirement, because they want you to know what you're getting yourself into. Today's bachelor degree recipients graduate with about $37,000 worth of student loans. And that's when they're being smart. A lot of students will take more than they need, and they'll take money, student loan money, to go on overseas trips and things through their college, and their debt can rack up really quickly. So I want you to be cautious about that, realizing that the average student loan payment is close to $400 a month. So when you get out of college, are you going to want to pay that $400 a month? Well, a couple of things. You need to make sure that the job that you're going for, the career that you're pursuing, is going to be able to afford you to pay that student loan back. And then you need to think about, well, am I going to, that $400, is that going to be reasonable for me to pay back with a house payment, a car payment, all of the things that my parents are paying right now? So you want to kind of be smart about the amount of student loan debt that you accumulate. All right, so let's talk about FAFSA for a minute. So who fills out the FAFSA when you do the FAFSA, okay? So I always have students who say, well, I turned 18 and I moved out of my parents' home, so I'm independent. Well, you're not. You might want to think that you are, but that doesn't necessarily say that you're dependent. So a parent and a student will have to fill out the FAFSA most of the time. The criteria: were you born before? And I know that slide says January of 96. For you guys, it'll be January of 97. So you'll see that even after you're 20 years old, you're still going to have to be probably declared dependent and use your parents' tax information. I know that makes a lot of parents angry because they say, well, they moved out. I don't get access to their records, all of that stuff. Why do I have to put them? And I don't get a tax credit for it, so why do I have to put them? That's not on me. I didn't make that rule. But other stipulations are you married? Were you working on a master's degree at the beginning of the school year? And of course, these school years that are over here that you're seeing, those are based on last year, so we'll just bump those up another year. Do you have dependents? And just because you have a child doesn't necessarily mean you're independent. It means, do you take care of the financial need of that child, more than half of that child's need? So if you don't, then you can't automatically say, well, I have a baby, I'm declared independent. So there's a whole list of those criteria that you'll want to make sure of. Also, just because you live with your grandparents, unless they are awarded legally your parents, they are not the ones we're going to use on the FAFSA. So we'll go into more detail about that when it's time to do your FAFSA. All right, the FAFSA goes live on October 1st, 2020 for you guys who are juniors now going to be seniors. And it's based on prior years. So you're going to hear that term a lot. Freshmen, you will use your 2019 federal taxes. And you may be like, well, why wouldn't I use my 2020 taxes? Because they go prior year. That allowed them to open up the financial aid in October instead of waiting till January. So we're using 2 years back. Now, some things happen with that. Sometimes you may have had a change in your circumstance, and I see that going to be a lot of people's changing circumstance going forward, because with COVID, we know that people are losing their jobs. And so your income may have changed, or you may have had a death in the family. Something happened within that 2-year time gap. Well, those are called special circumstances, and we'll just have to talk to your college, particularly your financial aid officer at the college that you're going to go to, about things like that. But you will be doing your FAFSA using your social security number. We'll talk again about this in October when you guys are more fully ready to do your FAFSA. So don't get too caught up in this right now. The FSA ID will be something that you'll go on to sign, and it'll actually be your signature. So how you actually sign it. If some of your parents went to college maybe 10 years ago, they know about the PIN number, the personal identification number. Well, this took the place of that. So you can go on at any time and apply for an FSA ID, but you and one parent will need that. And if a parent had a student who has gone to college in the past couple of years, then that FSA ID remains the same. So a lot of the times your students will set that up and not tell you, and then you have a second kid come along and they're like, I don't know. Get that information, communicate with your older children, and make sure that you know your FSA ID. All right, financial aid process is basically this. In October, we're going to do the FAFSA. Then you're going to get a student aid report that's sent to you. Your college will use that student aid report to determine your financial need, and then a financial aid letter will be mailed to you. So right now, the seniors this year are just now getting those financial aid letters, and they have this time that they have to accept or decline their financial aid award. So I tell them all the time to accept everything, because you don't know what circumstances are going to change, but you don't want your money. You say, no, I don't want that money. I'm not going to go to school there. And then that money go to someone else. You see what I'm saying? So a couple of years ago, I had a girl who was going to go to Harding, and she knew she was going to go to Harding University, but she received an offer to go to Arkansas State University. She said, I'm not going to go to ASU. I'm going to go to Harding. So she declined the offer. Things happen, life happened. She got an offer to walk onto the basketball team, but she wasn't going to get scholarship money there. So the scholarship money was going to have to come through the award that she turned back. So she couldn't get that award. So accept everything, and then they'll know if you don't show up that you haven't taken it, but accept everything. And then if you are receiving loans, you'll have to complete the student loan documentation. So a little bit about cost of attendance. These are like little FAFSA, EFC, COA. These are letters that mean nothing to you. We call that alphabet soup. But let me explain to you a little bit about the cost of attendance. So cost of attendance is basically broken down into your expenses while you're in school. So cost of attendance is the total cost, the total direct and indirect costs. So let me explain this to you like this. Colleges inflate their cost of attendance. And you may be like, why would they do that? Why would they make it look more expensive than it is? The reason they do that is because they know the more money that you need, the more financial aid you may get. Okay, it works like this. So, for instance, Black River Tech does not offer dorms, right? You can't live on campus. So they wouldn't necessarily have a housing cost, room and board cost like Arkansas State University would. But they know that you're going to have to live somewhere. So they figure that cost in there anyway. They also realize that you're going to have books and supplies. And not everyone's books and supplies are going to cost the same, and maybe a computer and personal expenses. So they put all of that stuff together to develop their cost of attendance. Because cost of attendance, you can subtract your EFC, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, and it gives your need. So if the cost of attendance is bigger, the need is bigger, and you can get financial aid for that. So they take the tuition and fees, the room and board, the books and supplies, the transportation, personal expenses, and they come up with your cost of attendance. So that gives you the sticker price. So you may look at these and say, well, in 2018-19 school year, this is the difference across the board. So let's say public in-state was about $9,700, private about $35,000. You can kind of see the trend of how it's going. So you'll know based on where you're going about what the cost is. But every college has a net price calculator. They are obligated by law to have this on their website. So you're able to go right up here and see what the cost at the college you're going to attend is supposed to be. All right, then we get to determining the need. The financial aid officer at your college will determine how much financial need you're eligible to receive, and you can't get more than that. That's called stacking. So the financial aid staff starts by deciding upon the cost of attendance at your school, and then they consider your EFC, or your expected family contribution. Remember, this came from the FAFSA. So what they did, they took all of the information from the FAFSA, you and your parents, and they look and they say, okay, and they had this much in medical expenses, they made this much, they had, the parents are of this age, they're close to retirement. This is how much money that we estimate the parents are going to be able to contribute. And the rest of it is how much your financial need is. So from that comes your amount of Pell Grant if you're going to get Pell Grant. Okay, so real quickly before I end this little shindig, I want to talk to you about state scholarships. The Universal, which we talked about a little bit, here's the timeline for that. In October 1st, we're going to be working on the Challenge Lottery Scholarship application. The Universal is like a one-stop shop, so it has, not only does it have the lottery, but it has the governor's scholarship. It has a lot of different grants and scholarships that have been, I think there's like 11 of them that they've put into this one website so that you can go there. And the ones you qualify for, you can apply in one stop. Okay, and then the governor's distinction deadline is in February. One thing that you'll have to remember for incoming seniors is, in order for you to get institutional scholarships at your colleges like Arkansas State University, they require that you be fully enrolled by December the 1st. So you have to have all of your application stuff in there, and you'll also need to get your FAFSA and all of that done prior to December 1st. That would make it great. So many of your colleges extend their scholarship deadlines to March and April, accept everything, and the deadline to apply for the Arkansas Academic Challenge is July the 1st. So if you are a senior watching this video, you still got a little bit of time to apply for that. Summer melt, avoid summer melt. So that's the thing that's going to keep me busy this summer, is contacting my seniors and making sure that they have everything that they need to do, because a lot of the times they get correspondence from the colleges coming in. They don't have their high school counselor to go talk to about it. So they need some help, and I'm going to be checking on you guys. I'm always available. You can reach me at ETS_Pam_Freer. My email is pfreer, P-F-R-E-E-R, @northark.edu. I'm on InstaChat, Instagram, really. I have Snapchat, but you're not invited. So I hope to hear from you guys and let me help you through this. Also, check out my YouTube channel, which is where you'll find this little video. So I will see you guys real soon. Hopefully, we'll all be healthy and we'll start school back in August, and we'll do all the things that you need to do to prepare for college on your senior year. So I will see you guys later. Have a great day. Get outside.